Elena turned 34, believing her difficult childhood was finally behind her. Then, one afternoon, a raised voice suddenly echoed across her quiet workplace. Nothing dangerous happened, yet Elena's entire body froze without warning. Her heart raced, her hands trembled, and her thoughts briefly disappeared. She knew she was safe, but something deeper seemed completely unconvinced. This is one hidden reality of growing up after childhood trauma. Childhood can end long before its survival patterns finally begin to fade. Alina had grown up surrounded by anger that could arrive without warning. She learned to study every expression before anyone even started speaking. As a child, noticing tiny changes sometimes helped her prepare for danger. Heavy footsteps, sharp tones, and slammed doors all became warning signals. But growing older didn't automatically switch that constant vigilance off. Decades later, Elena still scanned ordinary rooms for signs of conflict. A changed expression or sharper voice could instantly capture her attention. Psychologists often call this heightened monitoring for possible danger hypervigilance. For Elena, it sometimes happened before she understood what triggered it. Trauma can affect much more than someone's memories of painful experiences. It can influence attention, emotions, expectations, relationships, and physical stress responses. Some people remember traumatic experiences clearly, while other memories remain fragmented. Sometimes a sound or expression triggers distress before understanding even arrives. The body doesn't preserve a perfect recording of every painful experience, but the brain can learn powerful associations between certain cues and danger. That helped explain why raised voices affected Elena so intensely. She wasn't back in childhood, and the present wasn't her old home. But familiar sounds could resemble alarms learned many years earlier. Brain systems, including the amygdala, can rapidly respond to possible threats. Imagine an alarm shaped by experience rather than a perfect private diary. It doesn't retell the past, it reacts when danger seems familiar. For years, Elena believed understanding her childhood would stop these reactions. Understanding helped, but insight alone didn't make every reaction disappear. During therapy, Elena began noticing what happened inside the present moment. Where did the tension appear and what happened to her breathing? Did her shoulders tighten? Did she suddenly start clenching her jaw? Could she notice those sensations without assuming something terrible was happening? Those questions slowly changed the way Elena understood herself. Her reactions weren't simply thoughts she could argue herself out of. They involved learned patterns activating before deliberate reasoning could catch up. Then Elena noticed those same patterns appearing inside her closest relationships. Even around gentle people, part of her sometimes remained strangely alert. Calm disagreements could still leave her preparing for anger that never arrived. Peace was exactly what Elena had always believed she desperately wanted. Yet sometimes calmness made her strangely uneasy instead of completely reassured. Silence could make her wonder whether something bad was secretly approaching. Sometimes she remained defensive even after a situation had clearly become safe. Why could someone who desperately wanted peace struggle to trust it? There isn't one explanation that applies to every person with trauma, but childhood experiences can influence what people later expect from relationships. Attachment patterns, learned beliefs, and past experiences can shape those expectations. Elena sometimes noticed herself repeating emotional reactions that felt strangely familiar, not because she consciously wanted suffering or believed chaos was healthy. Familiar patterns can feel predictable, even when those patterns aren't good for us. Elena wasn't deliberately choosing chaos over the peaceful life she wanted. She had simply spent years learning a very different emotional map. That map formed where affection and fear sometimes existed side by side. Every argument added another line, and every slammed door another warning. Children don't get to choose the environments teaching them about relationships. They learn from what repeatedly happens around them while they're developing. Over time, those experiences can shape expectations about closeness, conflict, and safety. Elena grew older, but some of those early expectations came with her. That didn't mean her childhood had permanently determined her future. Recognizing those old patterns could give Elena opportunities to change them. Elena gradually learned to recognize when an old alarm started sounding. Instead of immediately obeying the fear, she practiced noticing its arrival. Tightness in her chest, pressure in her jaw, and shallow breathing. She noticed the urge to defend herself before danger was even confirmed. Instead of asking, "What's wrong with me?" she asked something different. "What is actually happening inside me right now?" That small question created something fear had often taken away: choice. A tiny space appeared between feeling threatened and immediately reacting to it. Inside that space, Elena could examine what the present actually contained. Was danger really present, or had something simply reminded her of before? This distinction mattered because healing was never about erasing her childhood. It was about responding more to the present than to old expectations. Elena could know she was safe and still experience intense fear. Learned emotional responses don't always disappear once we understand their origins, but supportive experiences and appropriate treatment can encourage healthier new learning. So Elena started noticing ordinary, peaceful moments she'd once overlooked. A disagreement ended peacefully, and the mistake passed without humiliation or punishment. She started setting boundaries and discovered that saying no could be safe. She experienced disappointment without automatically expecting rejection, anger, or abandonment. These moments looked ordinary, but each gave her brain different information. Conflict didn't always become danger, and silence didn't always mean rejection. Connection could remain steady without intimidation, fear, or constant uncertainty. One peaceful experience couldn't rewrite everything Alina had learned growing up, but repeated experiences of safety gradually made calmness feel less unfamiliar. Healing looked less like one breakthrough and more like repeated ordinary experiences. Eventually, Alina began noticing how differently she responded to everyday tension. Situations that once overwhelmed her sometimes became moments she could simply observe. That made Elena wonder how many old patterns were already beginning to change. Trauma can travel through patterns, but those patterns don't have to become destiny. Every healthier response gave Elena another way to handle difficult emotions. Every moment of repair showed that conflict could end without fear. She couldn't rewrite her childhood, but she could reshape her adulthood. And the human brain remains capable of learning and changing throughout life. Research on trauma treatment shows meaningful improvement is possible for many people. Healing doesn't require forgetting the past or becoming perfectly calm forever. For Elena, progress meant recognizing old echoes without treating them as emergencies. An echo resembles the original sound, but it isn't the original danger. Her past could explain her reactions without being allowed to dictate them. Childhood ended long ago, but Elena discovered healing could begin much later.